Hi everybody on Facebook. We're now live with Joe Barr. Joe, we just set the record. Ireland's most northerly tip to the south and back. 735 miles, 48 hours, 38 minutes. Congratulations from everybody on Facebook, the team and all the supporters that came out in the race as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Before we start, as I always ask you, who are you?
My name is Joe Barr and I'm a world endurance racer, and we've just finished breaking a world record here in Ireland, and this is the evening after.
How do you feel? You must be in a body bag.
Yeah, it's been a difficult day. I'm just trying to get my mind back in tow with my body and get both of those into the world again, and it hasn't been easy. It was the effort of the weekend definitely played its toll. I can only ever recall in my whole career, pushing the limit to that level twice before. Once at the Commonwealth Games and once at Race Across America. But it was I had to make a big effort for sure.
Gillian's just checking the live there, my God. So, Joe, I would say you were on the absolute limit. People seen the video of you crossing the line.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at any point of the race, was it?
No, I mean, I think that it doesn't really matter who you are, and it doesn't matter how you have established yourself with the experience that I have. Whenever you set off to do something like this, I knew that the distance and the time that we had to do it in was not going to be an easy task by any stretch of the imagination, because the 2015 ride that we did was a pretty special ride, and I knew that. So it was always going to be close. I don't think that you could set off and think to yourself, oh, I can take an hour off this, or I never ever believed that. I always knew that this would be a very close effort, but it's something I had to come back to. It's unfinished business for me. We tried in July, which was it was a planned effort in July, and that we just fell foul of the weather conditions. And when I got to the bottom, I obviously couldn't come back up again. So
when we say weather conditions, we're talking about a brick headwind, a headwind so bad it was buffeting the car.
No, I mean it was extreme. There's bad headwinds, and then there's something that's just extreme, and it doesn't come very often. But we were very unfortunate. Ireland had fantastic weather up till 4 days before we were about to go, and it just changed. So unfortunately, we can control what we control, but we can't control what we can't control. And at the end of the day, there comes a point whenever you have to make a decision. I didn't like to have to make a decision, but I also knew that I had the remainder of the season to think about, and I had responsibilities around that. And the other thing is, I think everyone on the team knows that I don't make those kind of decisions lightly, and I felt it was in the best interest of all of us to get off and save it, and I didn't forget about it. I put it on the shelf and said, I'll come back to that.
You were asking Facebook there now, would you do it for a third time?
No.
No. Why not?
I don't feel that I need to go back there. I feel that the team and myself have given ourselves a really good account of our capability. It's very difficult to do a ride like that in this time of the year in November, and I think one of the things that I like about it, today has been a little bit of a reflection day for me. Not many people realise that half of that is in darkness.
12 hours more.
There's more of it in darkness. There's, if you're looking at the 48 hours, you're close to 24 of it in darkness. So for me, as an endurance racer, I couldn't actually ask for a better training session. And at the end of the day, I know enough about this end of the sport now and this dimension of it to know that if you can't race in the darkness, you're going to be your nemesis, because you are going to fall apart.
So why November? Why not leave it till next year? Or people think you're mad in November. Why November?
Well, I think just what I've said, like, you know, firstly, it was unfinished business for me, and that was the first thing. I think secondly, the fact that, you know, to take it on and do it, half of it in darkness, you know, shows that we were very serious about what we were doing. It was always going to be a big risk, but I think in racing, risk is part of what we do. If you don't take the risk, then you'll never know. And I've always done that. I've always raced by that belief that I'm not afraid to lose, but I'm more disappointed if I don't try. And I think that the effort has been justified, and that's the two things. And the third thing is, like, you know, I got to go back, like, really to the start of the season. At the beginning of the year of 2017, I had a few sponsors who didn't renew, and you know, the whole season was, you know, looking a little bit iffy from a budget point of view to do a full season.
It is costly to go to these races. It's not like we're talking lots of money here.
Yeah, this is an expensive business, like, and at the end of the day, you know, what I don't want to do is I don't want to put people who want to try this off, because that's not the case. This is just the position that I find myself in at the end of it that I am at. You know, for someone wanting to try endurance, like, you know, that could be somebody going from 50 miles to 100 miles, or somebody going from 100 miles to 200 miles.
For me, it's going to the shops.
Well, okay, so, you know, or going to the shops, whatever. Like, so it's all relevant.
Yeah.
I think that I need to put that in context for everyone, like, before we start. Like, but you know, this is expensive, what we're doing, and I've evolved with the team, you know, to a point where we're in contention in the world. We're not parochial anymore, and we're not national, and you know, there's a few elements of that. And back at the beginning of the year, as I say, whenever we had a couple of sponsors who didn't feel that they wanted to renew again, and that's okay. But I was very fortunate again that we have a local business here called Taggart Homes, and Michael Taggart himself has been a lifelong supporter of mine, and has always supported me whenever we needed it. And you know, I had a long conversation with Michael, and he, you know, very courageously in his own industry stepped up and said, yeah, you know, I'll back that. And Michael has a history of backing local people doing great things, like, so I'm very much appreciative of him.
He made Race Across Italy possible.
Well,
he made the victories possible.
I think it goes further than that. I think that, you know, if you look at my season this year, or the team's season this year, he made the whole season possible. So
we can't not thank him at this point.
Well, it's not even about not thanking him. I mean, it's just a fact. You know, we have won 2 World Cup races, both in Italy and in Reno, Nevada. We've positioned ourselves, you know, not just in those races, but we've now positioned ourselves as a very small team, really, in the world. We've positioned ourselves, like, at the top end of the world.
Talk me through your season. Race Across Italy.
Race Across Italy was, I would say, a new beginning for me, because in 2015 I had a huge season, and what I mean by huge is, I mean, it was a lot of intensity on my body. For the first time ever, I had raced 50 hours non-stop. I went on to Texas and I raced 80 hours non-stop. I'd actually set this record that we've just finished. So I'd done a huge amount of long distance on my body, and I was very tired at the end of the year. So, you know, we sat down and I decided in 2016 that I would have a more low-key year. I had some personal stuff in life that I needed to go and deal with, and I took my time and went and did that, and it was all good, because my body got refreshed, but more importantly my mind got refreshed.
Yeah. It's half the battle.
Absolutely. And you know, I came back and I've worked a lot. You know, Gillian had come back on board in relation to all my nutrition and whatever, and we started off, and we sort of started a new chapter, and the new chapter was then to set off in 2017 with purpose and being meaningful, about not just riding races to try and get myself elevated, but I felt I had got the elevation, and the next phase was to try and position both myself and the team in the world rankings. I mean, we're a small country. The position we currently have as a team in the world rankings for the UMCA is a first ever, and hopefully, you know, over the course of the next month, whenever we get all the results are all calculated, because the season's now drawing to a close. The last big races were in California this weekend too. So we're quietly confident about our overall world position and where that's going to end up at. So I think it's going to be an exciting time in the next month just to see where our small team has ended, and that's the evolution of from 2015 through. But Race Across Italy, I went there and it was very purposeful. I wanted to win the category first of all, which was obviously where I have to position myself. But I also went there, me being me, to try and get up on the overall position, which is a big ask. You know, at the end of the day, I can't ignore the fact of my age and whatever. I don't feel like that every day. I still feel like I'm 23, but I know I'm not.
You look 23.
I'll take that. But at the end of the day, you know, I have to be realistic too. And
what age are you?
I'm 58 years old.
Joe, is that not too old to cycle?
No. You're never too old. You're never too old.
You inspire people. And Andy just said there on Facebook that you just inspired him to do a ride tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, I'm very privileged, and thank you to Andy for that comment. You know, if I'm doing that, then there's yet another dimension to what we're doing here. And you know, at the end of the day, sometimes I don't even realise that all that happens, but I'm aware that it does. So I'll wish Andy good luck with this ride. I don't care if it's windy, I'm not going out.
For sure. Jumping through the rest of the season then, we had the Donegal Ultra. What happened there?
Well, we went to Italy first of all, and you know, I had a great race with Martin Bergemeister. And
strong rider.
He's a great rider. Martin's a great rider. He's one of the best in the world in my category. And I went there very purposeful to try and get a good result against him. And I also knew that if I could have a result against that level, that I was on track for a really good year. And you know, we done that 500 like in 30 hours, and I only had 4 minutes stop in the whole race, and that was really just to put some leg warmers on. It was minimal. So I knew I had good condition in Italy, and the team had a great experience in Italy as well, which was good, because I think whenever you have a good result and a good experience, it motivates the team, and you know, it gives us more promotion, and it just helps in general with the you know, the recovery process, and then our entry to the next race. And you know, we decided then, you know, we'd come back and support the local race in Ireland, like, and we did do that. Unfortunately, you know, I just had one of their unusual weekends where I
just a bad day.
I just had a bad day. And that all happens, and it happened to be in my own home county, but you know, I can't fix that. Again, it's outside of my control. So you know, we quite quickly put that down, and you know, we had to focus on the next event, and that was going to this record in July.
What about Reno? Or July, sorry, the record in July first.
We went to the record in July, and you know, again, outside of our control, the weather just got the better of us. But I think one thing I will say about the July event, based on what we now know today after the weekend, you know, it was something we talked about a little bit during the race. Was I don't think because of not finishing in July, we actually realised how good the downward leg actually was. Yeah. Because you know, into that unbelievable wind, you know, I was only minutes slower than I was this time. Yeah. And like, the wind was a relentless pressure this time on the way down, but it wasn't anywhere even close to where it was in July. So you know, that was a little bit of a disappointment, I have to say.
Was it though? Like, well, you made it to the bottom of Ireland in a brick headwind. Surely you must have been proud of that.
Oh no, I absolutely. I mean, I don't take it lightly. At the end of the day, if you can ride to the bottom of Ireland on a good day, that's an achievement. You know, but it's in, again, back in context to where we're positioned and what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. So I would say it was a disappointment for me, actually, but it was a disappointment that I didn't carry. I just put it on the shelf and said, you know, I'll come back to that. Yeah. I didn't honestly know that I'd be coming back to it in November, if I was being truthful, but I was coming back to it. I think if people who follow me, they'll they'll be quite aware that normally when I try to do those things, I have 2 goes. Usually the second time I can get it pretty right. And I think there's one aspect of this record I think that needs to get talked about, and that is within the team we've actually changed a huge amount of processes that we do. And again, I'm putting that in context to where we're now positioned in a world level, and one of the reasons why we're there. Each race that we go to do now, no longer do we just go and race the way we race every time. We actually go to every individual race with a complete different strategy. We have a different strategy for the food, the nutrition. We have a different strategy for the build up to that, what that actually means. We're not just doing something nutrition the day before or the day in or anything. This is a process that we're going through, and it's very methodical and it's very, very well thought out.
Looking then at Reno, went to Reno, Nevada, Silver State 508. What a victory!
Yeah, we're talking about a very historic race in the US. It's been there for a long, long, long time, and I went there as a rookie, really. The actual course itself, the best I had was the knowledge that we lifted from the internet, and I've been very fortunate to have a lot of friends in this world now, and a lot of them told me a lot of information that allowed me to try and get a process together to try and go and race it. We set off like we did for Italy, no different. First of all, if we can win the category, that's good because that's securing our position. And I went there as normal to try and get up in the overall. And I didn't at the beginning. We done a few days recce on the course, and we got a feel for it. And the temperature didn't climb in the desert to the degree that I thought it was going to do, which helped a little bit. But I took the race on right from the start, and I thought to myself, this is going back to taking a risk. I thought I'll just take the race on and see what happens, and
it paid off.
It paid off. At the end of the day, I was beaten by a better rider. So, but I got second overall, and obviously we won the category. So again, the whole season started to take this shape of all of a sudden the purpose behind what we were doing became real in the actual numbers, and we raced in championships, world championships that are calculated by distance and time. So the accumulation of those times positioned us, the best I could be in the world. So that brought me to the situation where, taking on the record in November was going to put me in a position where I had no stones unturned. There's nothing more I can do. So, we had a usual bonfire meeting, and we sat down and we said, we're going to go for it.
Let's do it, yeah.
And just let's do it. So it's courageous of the team, to come with me in November, because it was a gamble, and in this kind of weather, it could have went horribly wrong. And I have to say, it stretched me to the absolute. That's for sure.
Talk me through the record then. The morning we were leaving, what was going through your head?
I was quietly confident, as I am most of the time. But I think one of the, I think if anyone who's following the life feed, they'll see there's a rare moment in my life at a certain point, and I think it's important to point it out that it doesn't matter who you are or how much experience you've got or whatever. There comes a point where at some point of the pressure you'll give in, you'll whatever. And there was a moment where my head started to not be in the game where it needs to be. And the lesson that I would say to any of the people who are getting into endurance at any level is it's a great example to see how the team management takes over not alone the stuff, the routine stuff, the food and all that, but they take over the navigation of your mental state, and they steer it and they keep it positive. There was a period in that when we came back up and we left Mizen. I mean, I can't even sit here and explain to you what the hailstones and the headwind was like, and the part that played in my mindset, because I had a mindset leaving Mizen that as soon as I get out over this these couple of cliffs. This is going to swing into a southwesterly, and then we'll get trucking up the road. And that just didn't happen.
We'll come to that in a minute. Malin Head, you were leaving. What was going through your mind? Talk me through the downward leg of the route.
Well, you know, we this time, like normally we start the records that we do, we normally start them in midday, and that's a convenience thing. Like, you know, we bring the team in, and the team have to travel, and they've stuff to organise, and they've got families and stuff like that we need to navigate around. And so we set it at a time, but this time, you know, we put the chips down and said, no, we're going to start at 9 o'clock. We have very little daylight hours, so we've got to make a little bit of hay. And the first section from Malin Head, the first 100 miles of this, isn't actually the easiest 100 miles. So it's not. It's dead and it's hilly, but to get into the best route to get to Mizen, you have to tolerate that. So there's a little bit of give and take, and I wanted to get through that fresh and, you know, get down into the flatlands, because I knew that once we got down into the bog roads, you know, the chances of getting a little bit of shelter from the hedgerows and stuff like that was going to come into play. And that was the truth, because there's a few big wide open sections, like sort of heading down in the middle, like Ballymahan and further on down there, and you're in the bogs. And like when you go out of the hedgerows and the crosswind hits you, somebody like at 50 odd kilos like me, I'm just blown into the bog. So it's you have to be very careful about, you know, gauging what you're doing there. So, you know, I set off very confident. I knew the wind wasn't, it was still windy. It's always windy at Malin Head. It just is. But once you get out of there and, you know, you get navigated out through, the first section is very difficult, and whenever you get down into Enniskillen and you start getting down into the flatlands, that's when it really starts to get going. Now, as we went south, it was bizarre, really. I mean, again, I go back to the weather patterns in Ireland at the minute, and, you know, I've raced here all my whole life. I've never seen, firstly, moonlit.
It was spectacular, wasn't it?
It was spectacular, and I thought, you know, normally in November you could be lucky and hit this window of just calm, still weather and bright moonlight nights and whatever. And all of a sudden it started to look like that. And I had set off very cautious about the strategy of speed and heart rate and stuff that we were working with.
A little bit more conservative.
Yeah, you know, I was very purposeful this time, like, and I was also mindful that you know, I had management process to go through here. And not just be completely stupid about what I was doing. Not that I ever am, to be honest. I'm always very cautious about how we go about things. But in July, you know, looking back on it now, I mean, I probably went a little bit too quick at the start. Not all the way, but at the beginning. So I tapered that off this time and was a little bit more strategic about it. But whenever the night started to open up and get clear, you know, I started to think, you know, I could go a little bit faster here. So in the last sort of 35-40 miles, I actually really did push on, like, and, you know, we were well in. I mean, currently I ride for the UMCA governing body of the world now. I don't ride for the UCI, and the process that they have is this record's broken into 3 sections. It's got a north-south section, and then a south-north section, and then the overall. So we had 3 records that we were riding for here, not just one. And I was mindful of that. So the last 30 I pushed really hard down. It was still really strong headwind. You know, it was a relentless pressure from Malin to Mizen, for sure. And certainly the last 50 was the strongest. But, you know, at that point, that's where it started. The pieces out of your control started to change. When you come back up out of that tip where Mizen is located, I mean, it's hard roads to get back out. It's a lot of climbing and dead, and it's twisty, and it's out and in, and the wind's blowing out and into the bays, and it's very difficult. It is a very difficult place to manage. It's just what you're doing, and the hailstones started.
At Mizen Head, just going back a wee bit, at Mizen Head, you got there and you realised, okay, I can turn, I can go up north. How did that feel?
Oh, you know, I mean, I knew, you know, I came here this time and we were going to the finish this time. Regardless, we were just going to the finish. You know, I'm very appreciative of the people who follow us, and they very kindly followed us the first time in Mizen Head, and again back to a little bit of responsibility. This time we're going all the way, and I always, like I said, I always knew it was going to be very, very tight to do it, which is one aspect. When you're under that kind of pressure, and I don't mean the pressure from the race, I mean the pressure from the actual outside uncontrollable factors of the weather, and you're trying to push as hard as you can. I'm sure every person who's tried to do anything, even go to the shops in the winter, understand that how difficult that is. But I had my moment, and the team, they rallied around me, and they got me back on track, and they kept feeding the positivity into me, not in a reckless way, but giving me the data and giving me the numbers that was crunched. And
tell me more about that. You actually said to me on the side of the road you thought it was impossible.
Yeah, I think I have to own that was the piece where my mental position faltered, for sure. And again, I go back to say that doesn't often happen, but it just shows and it proves that no matter who you are or what level you're at, that can happen to you. So, I own that, for sure.
How do we fix that?
Well, like we always do, we're pretty smart about what we do, really. And, we don't use what I call the reckless positivity of, come on, you can do it.
Yeah.
That to me is a road.
At times empty when you need
factual.
You need factual data. Yeah.
You need factual data, and the whole team are so clued into that now. Rather than panic and flap, they got in the car, they recalculated all the numbers, they recalculated the numbers for me on my dashboard, and we set off from that point of breakdown in my head. We set off at that point with a new plan to complete what we set out to do, and the result.
We knew it was going to be tight,
yeah.
For sure. How did you feel then after that point? What was happening to you? What was how were you changing?
Well, what we did was as I say, we worked off actual data, so we recalculated all the average speeds and heart rates, and Gillian and Alan calculated pretty much the way the nutrition needed to shift to suit what that data was like. So effectively we had operation there as well. But again, I think it's just testament to what we talk about in many of these feeds, where we talk about you gotta be able to be, you gotta really be able to recalculate your game plan on the side of the road as you move, and if you can't do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And somebody like me, I learned to stand back and take on board what's being said to me, and the collaboration within the team, gel together. We got a new plan and we set off, and everything it's not empty talk. It has data behind it.
We had gone through Limerick. We had reached the 500-mile points. We're now in the night time. Going into the second night time, we had a wee bit more sleep deprivation. People sometimes don't realise we do cycle through the night. How does sleep deprivation affect you, and how did it affect you in this race?
Well, first of all, my understanding of sleep deprivation is you can't overcome sleep deprivation, but you can manage it to the best of your capability, and obviously as you practice that, you get better at it. There's also the practice and the awareness of the team to identify it when it's present, because you may not be able to identify it because you're in it. So when you put those two processes together to the way that we operated, I know I'm in good hands, even though I know I'm on the limit. I never go beyond the limit, because that's not a place that's smart to do, and there's no need to do that. We're in this for sport. But I ride to the limit, and all the top guys do. So if I can't ride to that, I'm not going to be where they are, and I want to be there. So, and I want the team to be there. So we, the deprivation this time, you got to remember, this is actually the longest race that I've rode since 2015. So You know, this year I set off like this purpose, which was to focus completely on the 500s, which we've done very successfully. But I had to step outside of that comfort zone for this one, and I've had to do it in this environment. So there's a couple of double whammies that came in there.
And double the nighttime hours that we used to.
And double the nighttime. So, you know, I hope whoever breaks this record has a go in November. and it will get broke. This record will get broke for sure. Like, but for now it's good. And you know, the racing, I have to say, after doing it in 2015 when it was just normal and we had like 6 hours of darkness or whatever, this is a different race with 25 hours of darkness. So the sleep deprivation for me was pretty profound in the second night.
How do you know, like what happens in your mind, what happens to you, but how do you know you're on the limit?
Your blank spaces. Basically, I have a very good technical capability to position the bike on the road, and I move around a lot on the road, and that's purposeful because I'm always looking for the smooth bit, and that's quite difficult to find in this particular race actually. But the situation that we had this time again, there was huge pools of really deep standing water, and that brings a lot of problems because it's very difficult to see how deep it is, and it's very difficult to see what's in underneath that. Also, there's a lot of glare coming off the wet roads when you have oncoming traffic and whatever. So actual vision on the road was difficult. So the concentration level in this one was pretty high, even by my standards. So that has a fatiguing element in its own right. So I felt myself with the sleep deprivation really kicking in at an early stage in the evening. So when I say there's blank spaces, like what I'm talking about is there's these fragments of time where you know you've missed something because you're in a different place on the road, but it's like they're joined together like this, and you go, what happened there? So it's at that point you know I'm in this place. It's very difficult for a rider to gauge where exactly that is, sort of on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't really know where that is, but I know it's there. So I make the crew aware that this is happening. How
do the crew manage you in a sleep deprived mode? Like, how do they like the situation for you? How do they, you know, do they look out for you? Like, how does that work?
Oh yes, for sure. I think there's 3 or 4 things like that go with that. You know, first of all, you know, the experience of the drivers that we have is second to none. So effectively, they're always positioning the lighting system that we have on the cars. They're always positioning that in the correct place. It's not just lighting up the road to say here's the light. It's lighting it in a certain position to allow me as the rider, not them as the driver, to see exactly to the best possible way I can. So they're eliminating apexes of corners because they're here, or they're eliminating height because they're looking for what way the wind's coming. Because if you come from a section that doesn't have any, you know, it has hedgerows, and then all of a sudden there's no hedgerows, you don't know, in the dark you don't know where the wind's blow. Yeah. So with the time trial bike and with the flat sections, it lifts the bike out of your hand, so you have to be aware of where that is. So they're putting a lot of input by that management process to how I'm actually riding the bike, but people don't see that. So you have that. We also have verbal communication, the radio in my ear where they're talking to me, and then as a last resort we use the horn.
Car horn. So we're physically looking at you. We know you so well, and the fact that, you know, we're behind you for thousands of thousands. We know what you look like when you're good, and we know what you look like when you're on the limit. You know, that it's key to us, and it has happened many a time. You know, it's just you may even be stretching, you may even be, you know, but it's better to blast the horn when you're stretching than not blast it when you're asleep.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, because of the collaboration within the team, we're all sharing the information. We're, you know, I can't expect the team to manage me unless they know where I am, and they're not going to know that unless I tell them. So effectively, you know, you have to be. There's a big element of truth and positivity in this, and at the end of the day, all racers are the same. They've got egos. Mine's is fairly dented at this stage, so I don't carry it around too much. But sometimes they don't want to say I'm in trouble, and then it's too late. My advice would be make the team aware where you are, and they will look after you. It's It's just as clear cut as that. Because the consequences if you don't do that is not good, and we don't want anything like that to happen to people. But when I say we ride to the limit, I'm saying that in a controlled manner.
Yes, in a safe manner.
Yeah,
for sure.
So.
We coming out of the darkness, and we've worked through the sleep deprivation. You came back a bit, coming to darkness. 50 miles to go. We're in Donegal. We're making our way up towards Malin. That last 50-mile section, you knew you either had it or you didn't. What was going through your head?
Well, I think it's fair to say, it was in the balance. It was in the balance of minutes. The issue that came in Donegal was, well, first, I'm going to step back a little bit. Because of the sheer vibration of the bike for that duration, like in the length of time we were sat on it, I was using a particular type of tyre, and I was using fairly aggressive tyre pressures for considering the nature of the road and considering what the roads are like at this point in the year, not in July or June. And just getting across in it Enniskillen was a relief for me, because the road surface did change. It was a little bit more forgiving, like so it was. Because you got to remember, the roads that we are on in the south are not the really good roads that most people come to just realise in Southern Ireland. We're going the shortest route.
Yeah, we're in the back roads.
We're in back roads, like so.
The back roads of Donegal. Yeah, it must bouncing you crazy, but you knew just how to push it at this stage.
I think the back roads in Donegal are no different to the back roads in West Cork or Kerry, but they're the back roads, so that's the context that's in. Like, so when you get there, it was a little bit smoother. Like, and when I got back out of, there's two big climbs at that point in that event. Coming firstly, like whenever you leave Enniskillen and you're coming back towards Castleberg, and from Castleberg back towards right into Donegal, those are two at that point in the race. They are long and they are very severe. So I was very mindful that they were on the horizon, and I'd given my fuel tank was pretty empty at that stage. Like, I'd given everything that I could to get to there, and when we get to Lifford on our route, we're roughly 50 miles to the line. But it's not the easiest 50 miles. Sure. You're back into bays where the wind's coming off the sea, and true to form, it went into yet another brick headwind.
There's always a bloody headwind, isn't there?
Well, this one was a pretty special one, actually. It reminded me of July a little bit.
Yeah.
And down came the hailstones, and
just one last battering.
It was a proper last battering, and I had little or nothing left in the tank, to be fair. When we got to Buncrana, I would say it's fair to say both the crew and myself thought there's 2 to 3 minutes in this.
Yeah. It was 20 miles ago and just over an hour and a bit. Yeah. Or maybe an hour and a half or so. Like that was tight in the condition that you're in.
Yeah, it's the severity of the conditions. Like, it's not actually the distance. It's when you're at that point, and the elements are so severe. There's only a certain speed you can go at, no matter how good you are. It's just not possible. So I can't. We've talked about it, like, and Alan, my crew chief, has been with me for a long, long time, and I can't even tell you how many times we've rode the Inishowen 100. It's past counting at this stage, and the section out of Five Fingers up around the hill, I can never remember ever in my life going up that hill in anything smaller than a 53 and a 15.
You're on the ring.
I was on a 39 to 27, and I could barely get up the hill with the wind coming down it.
Yeah.
So, that puts into context for a bike riding person the severity of the wind. So, to get out over that, and then there was still one kick because you still had to get up into the tower at Malin.
That last climb, you seen the tower in the distance. You must have thought, I had this. Like, how did it feel as you were pushing up that hill towards the finish line? How did it feel when you crossed the finish line?
Well, I think that, from what I call, the Donegal cottage, as I call it, with the red door, I think the crew and myself, well, especially the crew, were screaming at me.
We were tired, but we were just trying to get every last ounce out of you.
And I could see the people stood on the tower waiting, and it seems so close yet so far when you're that tired, and I was, it wasn't even like that the tank was empty. It was fumes at that stage. Like I had emptied the tank from Buncrana to get to there, because that's where the race to me, the record to me was won between Five Finger Strand and the finish.
How did it feel when you crossed that finish line?
Relieved.
Wait, like thousands, like 16,000 people have watched the video you crossed the finish line.
It's, I've actually watched the video myself. Gillian and myself watched it today, and I can see that it's impactful. It's it's probably difficult for people to watch someone.
It is difficult, especially for the crew.
Yeah, I can understand that. But the crew that's looked after you all that way, and here you are in this crumbled heap on the ground. But you also have to understand that you can't just deliver these kind of rides and expect it to be perfect and you're not going to hurt and whatever. And I think it's important for all the people who are interested in getting into this sport to not be put off by what they just see. Right? What they should see there is it's possible.
Yeah. And that was the message that we learned in this race.
It's possible. Mm-hmm. So, so that was it. Jill and I have worked incredibly hard to get to that point. So, no, I have. If I was back there, that's what you got to do. If you want to, I think that this particular finish line is one of those finishes that can define the level that you can push to, and it also sends a great message to say it doesn't matter who you are, it is possible. And that's, to me, that's the message I've learned this time, because I was the one who faltered, not the team. And normally I'm seen as the guy who's driving the team. Well, here's an example of that's not true. That's a non-truth. The team provide equally what I provide. So the result that we've got on that finish line yesterday is their collaboration.
And we appreciate that much than anything.
Well, that's the truth. Yeah. And that's whenever you strip that finish line right down to the bare what it is, that's what it is. You either can or you can't, and that's, to me, that's that's why I love this part of the sport. It just boils down to that, and to be so close, it's not exceptional. It's just possible.
What's your advice to yourself in your future races? What have you learned from this?
I think that I would go as far as to say that I feel that I've always been very passionate about my sport, and I think anyone who knows me knows that that's real. It's been my life. I'm very passionate about what we're doing right now and how we're actually positioning not just Team Joe Barr, but Ireland, or small island, in the world stage of what we're doing. And it's like we've gone through this process where no one has noticed that we're chipping away and we're banging away, and we've been to America, and we've been to Italy, and we've been here. All of a sudden now we're, there's a tension arriving to go, oh, hang on a minute, and like, we're this little team from Ireland, and the country Ireland is now in the top of the rankings, and that's very important to me.
How important are your supporters, the people who are literally watching us live right now, and how important is it, to reach them and them to reach us? How does that affect your race?
Well, I just think, I think, well, firstly, it affects the race massively. So it does. I appreciate everyone who follows us. I have to go back to the record yet again and say there wasn't one piece of this course that we were on that there wasn't people stood on the side of the road actually shouting for me.
At crazy o'clock in the morning?
At crazy time o'clock in the morning, right? And people standing in the middle of the road as you're coming along taking pictures, and that goes for Kerry and Cork and Limerick and right up through, and there's just one guy, I don't know who he was, but I'm just going to say, and he stepped off the end of the bridge in Castlefin at like, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning, shouting, you know, keep going and don't get off. I don't think that, I've never experienced that kind of support before, and I have to say it's really, really appreciated. You know, the era of what we're sitting here doing now, you know, was never in my era in mainstream. So I'm enjoying the fact that we can share, you know, this experience, because like, you got to remember, there's this group of people travelling down through Ireland where everybody's just having their life or in their bed or whatever, and we're off doing all of this stuff. And you know, I ride by people's homes and I can see them sitting by their TV and their fire, and they don't even know we're here until we sit down here, and you know, we bring this whole thing that we've done to them. I think it's a fantastic concept, and I think that you know, I hope that the message and the inspiration that the team can give to people to help them to go and do whatever their endurance trip is like, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like life. It's all possible if you keep moving forward.
Well, I think that's fair enough. We'll finish this here. Joe, is there anybody you want to say special thanks to or hello to while we're live?
Well, I think again that list is long. It gets longer, I think, but I think first of all, the people who followed us is for sure a huge part in what we're doing. We need everyone's support to do it. I would like to thank all the sponsors who's made this season possible. You know, we go through them sometimes, like, you know, but certainly this time, you know, Taggart Homes have made our season possible. I have another local sponsor here in Malin Installations, and I'd like to thank John Deary for all the support. I have my biggest supporters in California and BRL.
Yeah,
it's been with me now since 2012, and if we can just get to December and put a full stop on this season, I think that would be really good. It'll justify all their support for us, and I'd like to say a big thanks to Bob, who handles all that for us. He's a great guy and very supportive, and I think I'd like to say a big thank you to all the family members of all the team. We're away a lot, and you know, we're not actually very hospitable around dates and times. So, you know, everyone on the team has families. So I would like to say to the wives and partners and kids and whatever, thank you very much for allowing your other partners to be on this journey. And lastly, to my own crew, you're just the best.
We appreciate that. Joe, thank you very much. You probably deserve a good glass of wine and a good sleep now. So
I don't know about the wine, but I'll go for the sleep.
For sure. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Obviously, like, share and comment as usual. Also, you can check out all our videos on Facebook. So guys, see ya. Ciao.